What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 107 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk to you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today's episode is brought to you by IQ Power Tools. Go check out their range of innovative power tools with integrated dust collection systems at www.iqpowertools.com. And today we're joined by Mike Michalowicz. He wrote books like Profit First, Fix This Next, Clockwork, Pumpkin Plan, as well as many others to help business owners take control of their business trajectory, finances, and time. And we cover all of these topics and more in this wide-ranging interview. So let's get started. Today, we're joined by Mike Michalowicz. He is a successful entrepreneur who has taken what he has learned and continues to test to write books like Pumpkin Plan, Clockwork, Fix This Next, and books like Profit First that has really been embraced in this community. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us here.
Michael, it's a joy to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Mike, let's just get started here to get to learn a little bit more about yourself. Quick context about who you are and what's kind of brought you to today to write these books that continue to change business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, their lives and their businesses.
Sure. And just to give you a little context, I'm working from home today, so you may hear a little banging in the background. I actually have a contractor here doing some hardscaping work. So
incredible.
Yeah. And they're doing something awesome, something that they actually never saw before that I turned them on to. So I can share that in a minute. But to give context on who I am a full-time business author. That's what I do. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, but my journey hasn't just been some successes I'm blessed to have had. It's been some real difficult times, losing my money, losing my house because I didn't know how to run a business. And it was actually those really dark, struggling times that inspired me to investigate what makes entrepreneurship work. Why do so many of us struggle? And I started to write notes for myself, honestly. And as I did research and made discoveries and started employing them in my own business, like Profit First and those other books you've read, I was like, wow, other people have to discover this. So I became an author, and that was all 15 years ago. So for the last 15 years, I've been writing books. I still run two businesses myself, but everything I do is to simplify the entrepreneurial journey. That's what I do.
Absolutely. And Mike, getting right into things here, as business owners, there's so many different things that we can look at in our business to fix next, as it is so elegantly put in your book. But what kind of questions do we need to be asking ourselves, or what kind of thoughts do we need to be having in order to decide what is that one thing that we're going to focus on to fix next? Because if we focus on everything, it may not just get fixed.
That's right. Yeah. If you do everything, nothing works. And actually, that's a common reframe that we say as entrepreneurs. I'm working on everything, but nothing's working. We have that frustration. So if you say that and feel that, it's likely you're not working on the one most important thing the business needs from you. The other thing is, many entrepreneurs, myself included, for decades, I thought that sales cures all. If I can simply get that next big client, that next big job, my business will finally be righted. But what I discovered is sales are necessary to create cash to bring into the business, but it doesn't mean you're going to keep the cash. For many of us, it comes in one hand and goes out the other hand faster. So sales are necessary, but not sufficient for a business. In fact, sales alone creates stress for an organization. I mean, think about it. Every time you sell a new job, you have a responsibility now to deliver on that project. Mm-hmm. And if you sell another job and yet another, now you have more responsibility. And as small business owners, that's weight on our shoulders. So that's why as our business sells more, we are freaked out more. So there's actually multiple elements that we must work on in our business, but we do it in sequence of priority. Where's the biggest need? So yes, we do need sales, but if you have some sales coming in, the next question is it profitable? How do we extract consistent profit from it? And if you're selling and there's not a lot of money going in your pocket, we probably don't have a sales problem. We actually probably have a pricing problem or something else like margins, efficiency, something that is compromising our profitability. Once that's in place, how do we stop doing the work ourselves? We have to bring order to the business where we can get jobs done without doing the work ourselves or being involved. I actually say if we can attract prospects, convert them to paying customers, have them raving about the experience they have with the projects that we do, have them even referring us to other customers and paying us on time, all while we're sleeping, and that's the key variable, that's a business that can run on automatic. Those are elements. There's other considerations too. But the question you must ask yourself right now is, what is, of all the challenges the business is facing, which one is the number one priority? And it can only be one. That's where we have to focus our attention. The other things need to keep humming along. If you have sales, you can't say, I'm going to abandon sales, but let that keep continue going in the background. But let's master profit. Once the profit's resolved, the next kind of, it's like a whack-a-mole game. The next thing's going to pop up, and maybe it's efficiency. And we have to concentrate our efforts on resolving that while ensuring that profit's running on automatic behind the scenes and sales is still continuing. And then once we have that, maybe we jump back to sales and say, now let's boost sales again. So we concentrate our efforts on resolving one thing at a time while the other things keep kind of chugging along in the background.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as we kind of develop our business, I'm sure these things that we're fixing are building value in our business in terms of, I know, Mike, you've sold a business before in your past, but with a construction contractor-based business, especially in our industry, the exit strategy typically seems to be passing the business on to the next generation or just selling off equipment or assets. And these are depreciating assets, right? So they're nothing, to write home about. But what can we do in our business to build that value, to create something that we can actually sell if we want to, instead of just selling off these assets or passing it down to the next generation? What does that look like?
Yeah. And when I speak with entrepreneurs, when I'm speaking on stage, it's actually coming back now that the COVID pandemic is kind of shifting and we're live again, but virtual audiences too. I ask people, how important is the exit from your business? Is that your source of retirement? Is that going to be your funds? Who's banking on selling their business? And I would say 90% of the hands go up. That's what we all want. We dream of selling our business for big bucks one day. The reality is a very small amount of businesses sell for any form of premium. Most exits are actually a liquidation event, like you pointed to. We get rid of the stuff we have. Maybe we simply transfer it to someone else to carry on more of a burden than anything. So the question is, how do we make our business saleable? And it's very doable if we focus on it. And I'm not just saying this, theoretically. I've sold 2 businesses now. And I remember my second company, I sold it to a Fortune 500 called Robert Half International. They own account temps and office temps. And the managing partner who was facilitating the acquisition of my company came to me and said, you know why we're buying you and paying you such a premium? I said, why? He's like, you're one of the few entrepreneurs who didn't focus on sales. You focused on structure. Everyone can focus on sales. And many entrepreneurs become the best sales guy for, and that includes women. I'm from New Jersey, so guy means all people. But most entrepreneurs focus on selling and get really good at it. But the second they leave the organization, there goes the source of sales. What I did was I focused on the structure. How do I make the business sell without me? How do I make the business deliver without me? How do I make the business run behind the scenes, the infrastructure, without me? That was my entire goal from day one. That is really desirable to an acquirer. I mean, think about it. Say I have a business. Say I have I'm a landscaper. I do major projects for wealthy people. An average project is, say, $75,000 or something. These big projects. Do you want that if the day I leave, all those projects go away? I assume not so much. But instead, if the day I leave, you continue to land those projects and are very profitable, do you want that business? Probably. You see, people buying businesses are investors. They're looking to get a return. These aren't people who are looking to waste money. They're looking to make money. And if there's dependency on the owner, that is a very precarious position. And most investors will avoid that. You run for the hills. So make your business run without you. And now you have a business that's very saleable. But there's an interesting part to this too. If you can make your business run without you, why do you have to leave your business in the first place? You may just have it as a cash ATM. And now that puts you in control. Because when the acquirer comes and says, I want to buy your business, you say, I don't know if I really want to sell it. And they say, well, how much do we have to pay you to make you want to sell it? And that's where you can negotiate in your favor.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure in the first step of doing this is, especially for an entrepreneur or especially a contractor, is really difficult because you're talking about that first step, giving up control, hiring somebody that you put your faith and trust in, and kind of build from there. And that relinquishing of control I'm sure you've come across this with the entrepreneurs that you talk to, business owners that you talk to. I certainly am in this boat. Giving up that control is incredibly difficult. Any tips on being able to, get over that hurdle?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is probably one of the biggest fears. Yes, there's a way to get over it, and it's not to do it in the traditional sense that we see. It's not finding the replacement for ourselves. That's what most entrepreneurs do. We say, you know what, if I could just find a me to replace me, this business will hum along. But the risk here, of course, if you find another you, that means they're going to have to be extremely capable. You're going to pay them a lot of money. But why would they want to work for you if they're like you? Wouldn't they want to start their own contracting business? So it's a precarious position. Here's what I call the quote unquote right way to do it. Fractionalization. We take ourselves and we split ourselves into pieces and say, okay, I do sales. I do quote prep. I actually oversee some projects. I do some administration. I do some hiring. I do our marketing. All of those are little individual jobs. And what we can do is hire for those little jobs. And it's not hiring full-time people now. Now it's hiring a virtual assistant to help here, part-time labor to help here, and so forth. So you fractionalize yourself. The beauty now is if one of those people leave, you don't lose everything. You actually maintain control because you split yourself up. The other thing, and I would say 80% of my employees, I'm small, but we just hired 2 more people. So we're at 16 people right now. We're a tiny company. But my 16 people, 80%, almost everyone is part-time labor. When we have an onslaught of demand, I go to my team and say, hey, would you be willing to work some extra hours? We need help. And they're like, yeah, I would love to. And they ramp up. When things are slower, saying, hey, if you want some more vacation time, things will slow down a little bit. It's available for you. You can slow down. And they're like, oh, cool. I'll take this opportunity. There's a big community out there that's looking for the gig economy now, that's looking to do part-time work or fractional work or virtual help. And our job is to employ folks like that. So don't find the one replacement, find the 50 little pieces to replace yourself. And one other benefit is you don't do this all overnight. You don't hire all those folks at once. Just hire the first person to take over that job you like the least. Running the numbers and the books and stuff like that. I just wish I had someone to process the numbers and give me a report at the end of each day or each week. Well, maybe that's what you don't like to do. Make that your first hire, because you're going to learn how to start delegating and controlling and overseeing without doing anymore. And once you get comfortable with that, then hire the next and so forth.
I want to take a moment from today's episode to thank our sponsor, IQ Power Tools. They began by building tools to solve its own job site dust problems. And fast forward to today, the company continues to combine intensive research and industry knowledge with a completely updated approach. The result? Innovative tools that eliminate dust and water while creating more efficient workforce. IQ Power Tools envisions a future where their innovation helps create a 100% dust-free environment. Job sites are safer, work practices are healthier, and the construction industry becomes even more sustainable. Their National War on Dust Tour begins this summer. Visit them at www.iqpowertools.com to see when they'll be in your neighborhood next. That's www.iqpowertools.com. Now back to our episode.
Mike, selling a business must have been extremely challenging to do, but pulling that off, I want to ask you, what was the feeling like on the other side of that? Was it like ecstatic? Were you extremely happy, or was it a hole that you needed to fill and start a new business? I'm asking this for, somebody in our industry who may be looking to build their business to a point that they want to sell it, and then getting to that point where, what comes after that then? Because as business owners, entrepreneurs, we've got this gear that's constantly going, and then when nothing is there to fulfill that, and your business is sold, what happens on the other end?
Yeah, it's funny, Michael. People ask me, is that a great day when you sell your business? And I got to be totally honest, it is not a great day. It's a fucking great day. It was awesome when that check comes across the table and someone acknowledges your achievements by paying you money, and particularly a lot of money. It is a huge celebration. So it's an amazing day. But to your point, then a void came for me pretty quickly. I was like, well, what do I do now? I was kind of twiddling my thumbs, and inspired me to start a new business. So I think we need to, at least I should have prepared for what after. That high was very short lived. And I did some wonderful, exciting things with it, and it's brought joy in so many ways. But it didn't bring fulfillment once the transaction was done. So I started something new. What I did is I asked myself, why am I on this planet? Like, what am I doing here? So my second business, to give some context, was in computer crime investigation. We investigated actually part of the Enron trial and some other projects, and that's why we were so desired by this Robert Half International and other companies, because of the nomenclature, the exposure we're getting through these jobs. And I should have asked myself, why am I on this planet? Like, what gives me joy and purpose? Because that work, while it was, I was able to be to generate a lot of income and stuff like that, it really wasn't a joyous experience. So I started asking myself that after the sale, and I discovered I love to learn. I love, once I do something incorrectly, I love to figure out why that didn't work and then try to find the new solution. And I think I would have become an author maybe 5 or 10 years even prior to now, or sure, when I started 15 years ago. So to have a little longer runway. But now that I have a purpose behind this, and I call it eradicating entrepreneurial poverty, helping entrepreneurs who started a business with a dream of wealth, personal freedom, do what you want when you want, are not experiencing that, to actually experience that. And with my focus on that purpose, this work has been the most fulfilling. And ironically, the most profitable. Once we do what we're really joyous about, there's this energy that transfers. Maybe you can even hear my voice. I'm actually standing right now. I'm like so pumped to talk with you that I just challenge everyone to ask yourself, like, why are you on this planet? And maybe your current business can be an expression of that. Maybe you just make little tweaks and changes to how you do your current work. But if you sell it, the next company, maybe you can even lean more into why you're here on this planet.
Absolutely. And Mike, I'm jumping all over the place here, but I've got probably 12 hours worth of questions for you, but just a limited amount of time. So bear with me with all these different wide-ranging topics.
I love it. And I got to tell you about this guy outside. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Let's not forget.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming kind of to that, I guess, what, with all these businesses that you've, been a part of or even consulted with and whatnot, and you've had the privilege to kind of talk to the business owner, whatever it might be. What are some of the strategies that you've kind of presented them with, or even, your books that you've kind of told them, hey, go through this and tell me what you think. And, we'll go from here. What are some strategies that really cause entrepreneurs, business owners to open up their eyes to something that they needed to change in their business? Yeah. And what would you say about that?
Great question. The riches are the niches, and maybe you've heard of it before, but it is absolutely true, and so few people execute on it. I know landscapers who say, well, if you own a home, I can serve you. There's some landscapers that say, if you own a large property that's over 20 acres and you have a guest house on it, I'm your person. And I realize at first blush, you may say, well, isn't the process the same? But it's not. The language changes, the way you communicate with that customer, their specific needs. Now you can do improvisation in your offering. You can tweak things dynamically. You can say, hey, listen, we do our scheduling around guests visiting your guest house or something like that. Or maybe, you own Airbnb. We specialize in Airbnb properties to ensure that when your guest first arrives, it's the best presentation of the property. Those things sound like such minor changes, but when you speak to people's unique needs, they will pay a premium. Think about the Airbnb person. Every time someone leaves, they're getting a 5-star because the first impression is so remarkable because of the maintenance and work you've done for that property. Well, gosh, that Airbnb owner is going to talk about you, and you're getting all the Airbnb jobs in the area, and they're going to pay a premium because they're making more money. And so when we focus on a niche, we learn to speak their language and we learn to cater to their unique needs, but also innovate in your market. So this is the opportunity to talk about this guy outside. They're redoing a deck, but they're doing it with stone, and it's an elevated deck. And so I told this guy the unique need I wanted, and he's like, well, no one does elevated stones and deck. You can do Trex, you can do this Polywood stuff, but you can't do stone. And I said, well, I think you can. And he did the research and came back with this material. It's called Stone Deck. And that's what they're putting out there right now. It is it's effectively laminated porcelain stone, but it is amazing. He ran a test project a year ago on a small deck we have, and now he's doing our large deck, and it's remarkable. As a homeowner, I'm like, my gosh, the maintenance is nothing. There's no rotting wood. It doesn't need to be stained. I just power wash it once a year, and it looks pristine and mint. It's unbelievable. The guy now, he came in. This was a few days ago. And says, you wouldn't believe this. I just sold one of these stone decks. And he goes, I got double my standard price. Materials basically the same, double the installation price, because I'm the only person in northern New Jersey, that's where I am, that does this. So there's opportunities. The lesson here is become a specialist in something that other people don't do. There will be a community of people who see that as such a premium, as such a value to them. And as you being the only provider are willing to pay a premium. And here's the best part. People who pay more generally are better customers. And I know you've already experienced this. The lesson is when people are invested in something, they are vested in a successful outcome. So your best customers will want the premium stuff.
And I've personally learned that in my business, which comes to, pumpkin plan, what I learned from that and how I pivoted my business. I won't bore you with that story, Mike, because we just got a couple more time for a couple more questions here. So what made you go with that specific contractor that you hired as somebody that has been able to look at many different businesses, write all these business books? What was it that made you go with your contractor that you have out there right now?
Yeah. So, the only thing people know about you until they do business with you is your marketing. And I think he understands it inherently, maybe subconsciously. But the thing is this, your marketing needs to be excellent. I am not saying you have to have an expensive website, amazing brochures and so forth. But the way you present yourself during the sales process is massively important. So he was on time every time he said, hey, I'm going to show up and demonstrate certain things. If there was any problem or delaying him, he was communicating proactively. That's impressive, particularly when contractors from the consumer's perspective are notorious for delays and so forth. Mm-hmm. He demonstrated in the sales and marketing process that wasn't going to be an issue. But the second thing is he brought samples with him. He brought tactile experiences. Most people say, can you envision what it's going to look like? He said, let me bring the actual materials with me to show you installations and so forth. And that was impressive. That was a few things I didn't see other contractors doing, and that's why he won the business.
Absolutely. And Mike, having, been a business owner for so long, and as I've been saying, having written all these books and been able to take a look at businesses from a wide range of industries, Mike, what is that one thing now, or even somebody that you've consulted knows now, that they wish they knew from the beginning, or you wish you knew from the very beginning as a business owner?
Okay, it sounds crazy what I'm about to say, because you wouldn't think this is true, but I found it to be true, is that the more you focus on profitability, the faster you grow. And I thought that was two opposite things, meaning if I was focusing on profit, taking my profit first, that would slow down my growth. But here's what happened for myself. And because I wrote Profit First, I have access to thousands and thousands of businesses that have reported to me. When you take your profit first, what happens is you have to focus with the remaining money on the stuff that actually works. So just because someone says, hey, I'm doing Facebook ads, you should do it, it doesn't mean you can afford it now. In the past, like, I have just enough money, I'll try these Facebook ads, I'll try posting stuff on Instagram. And we do these pot shot things. But when you take your profit first, you become much more selective, saying, well, let's prove that this Facebook stuff really works for us. And if it does, let's amplify it. If it doesn't, let's find something different. So I found businesses that take their profit first are much more considerate of how to grow their business. And therefore, the business actually does grow faster and healthier than their contemporaries.
And then as business owners, what can we do with our profit? Like, is this something that should be used to be investing back into our business? Or is that something else that we should be collecting in terms of like an overhead expense? Profit, where does that go in your mind?
Yeah, profit never goes back in the business because there's actually, technically, you can't. Even though people say that, I've reinvested my profit. You see, profit, the definition of profit is money that is allocated to shareholders, and as a small business owner, that's us, or reserved to be allocated. The second money is spent on an expense, it's an expense. So it's a shell game. We say I was profitable, but I don't have any of the money. So no, that wasn't profit. That was an expense. What I found is the use of profit is to do a few things: to reward the shareholder. So you do what you want with it. Go on vacation, have an amazing time, reserve it for your own personal savings, pay off personal debt. Or, this is the only exception, is if the business has historical debt, we have to use profit to eradicate debt. Because if you look at historical debt, that's an expense you incurred in the past that you couldn't afford or chose not to afford. So you borrowed money from something or someone, credit cards or something. You have a responsibility to pay that. And the only way to pay off past debt is to make more money today than you're spending, aka profit. So if you have historical debt, we first use profit to wipe out the debt. Then going forward, one and only use, reward the shareholder, which is you.
Absolutely. And profit is that, as business owners, we take on a lot of risk, especially as contractors. And that is our return on investment, as you would say, correct?
That's exactly right.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for your time today. This was a pleasure to get to speak to you. Where can our listeners go to learn more about yourself, the books that you have, podcasts, wherever you want to send them to?
Michael, this has been a joy for me too. So thank you for having me. And the site to go to is MikeMotorbike.com. It's actually Mike Michalowicz, but no one can spell it. So Mike Motorbike is an old nickname I have, even though I don't drive a motorcycle. Mike does rhyme with bike. So MikeMotorbike.com. At that site, you'll find all my books are available. You can get free chapters so you can read them immediately. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal, articles and and tips and shortcuts for businesses to grow. That's available all for free. And I have my own podcast there too. MikeMotorbike.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on the subject, and let us know who you want to hear from in future episodes by reaching out to us on our social channels. We are at How to Hardscape on Facebook and Instagram. And while you're there, check out our sponsor, IQ Power Tools, at IQ Power Tools on Instagram, Facebook, wherever else you can find them on their socials. And check their website, iqpowertools.com, to see if they'll be in your neighborhood next on their War on Dust tour this summer. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.